You know, we usually think of our superheroes in this very specific, comforting context, like they have a team or a squad, or at the very least, a dynamic duo kind of thing.
Right, yeah, they have backup.
Exactly. They have a high-tech headquarters, they have fans cheering them on from the sidewalks of some bustling metropolis. But most importantly, they have a neighborhood. They are totally tethered to the world they're trying to save.
They belong somewhere.
Yes. So it really makes you wonder, what happens when the ultimate friendly neighborhood superhero loses his neighborhood, his friends, and, you know, maybe even his mind?
It's a huge shift. I mean, you're fundamentally stripping away the anchor that keeps them tied to humanity. And when you do that to a character whose entire appeal is his relatable humanity, you are really playing with fire.
Oh, totally.
It completely shatters that traditional framework of the hero's journey we're so used to.
It does. And that actually brings us directly to our mission for today's deep dive. We are dissecting the highly anticipated, newly released film, Spider-Man, Brand New Day. I know, right? Okay, let's unpack this, because our goal today is to figure out if this movie's massive swing at being this dark, mature character study actually works, or if it just, well, collapses under its own emotional weight.
Right, like, is this darker tone a natural evolution, or is it just forced grit?
Exactly.
And to really understand that emotional weight, we have to establish the new status quo for Peter Parker in this 145-minute PG-13 epic. Because the board hasn't just been wiped clean, it's been thrown out the window.
Completely defenestrated.
Yeah. I mean, if you recall the whole multiverse-shattering chaos of No Way Home, Doctor Strange cast that spell that erased Peter Parker from the collective memory of the entire world.
Right. Literally everyone forgot him.
Everyone. And on top of that, his beloved Aunt May was killed. Right. So he has zero safety net left.
It was the ultimate sacrifice play, which, you know, sounded really heroic on paper back then, but now we're seeing the brutal aftermath of it.
Yeah, exactly. So now we are looking at a Peter Parker who is 30 years old, and he is completely, terrifyingly isolated.
Just totally alone.
Right. He's living in this corroded, depressing New York attic apartment. It honestly looks like something out of a neo-noir film.
It's so dark.
It is. He's just surrounded by glowing computer screens, endlessly tinkering with these electromechanic devices just to hone and focus his powers. That bouncy, optimistic, pop culture quoting high school kid, he's entirely gone.
Honestly, it is incredibly jarring. Like, watching him on screen, I kept thinking, this new Peter Parker feels less like an Avenger and more like a workaholic hermit.
Oh, definitely.
Or, you know, one of those burnt-out tech bros who hasn't left his apartment in a year, just hyper-fixating on his gadgets in the dark with, like, takeout boxes piling up everywhere.
That is the exact vibe.
It's a stark contrast to the kid we've known for the last decade. It just forces you to reevaluate everything you thought you knew about the character.
And the film deliberately uses that claustrophobic physical isolation in the attic as a mirror for his profound emotional isolation.
Yeah.
And that's the crucial point here, I think. The core tragedy of this film isn't a villain threatening to blow up the city with a sky beam.
Right, there's no massive alien invasion.
No. The real tragedy is the absolute devastating loss of his most vital relationships and how he chooses to cope with that void.
Which brings us to arguably the most agonizing part of the movie.
Oh, the scrolling.
Yes. Peter spends his downtime obsessively perusing social media videos of MJ, played by Zendaya, and his best friend Ned, played by Jacob Batalon.
It's so hard to watch.
It is. He's just watching them live their lives through a screen. And because of the memory wipe, they view him as a total stranger. They don't know him at all. He's basically haunting his own life.
And the layers of irony there are incredibly thick. I mean, the filmmakers know exactly what they are doing to the audience with this.
Oh, they know.
Especially because the movie leans heavily into this meta teen idol dimension.
Right.
Like, everyone walking into that theater knows that Tom Holland and Zendaya actually got married earlier this year in 2026.
Right. The biggest pop culture wedding of the year.
Exactly. So you have this massive real-world romantic culmination happening in the public eye, while on screen, you are forced to watch them act as complete and utter strangers. The cognitive distance is staggering.
It's pure torture for the fans. You're sitting there in the dark, screening internally, just wanting them to recognize each other.
It is. But that actually leads directly into a major critique of the film's narrative structure. Because initially, this amnesia plot is playful and undeniably poignant. It hurts in a good way.
Sure. At first.
But over the course of a nearly 2.5-hour runtime, it becomes dramatically frustrating. When you sit down for a story like this, you want a relationship to be a journey. You want some sort of momentum, even if it's, 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
We want progress.
Right. But instead, the film traps Peter and MJ in this frozen piece of sad irony. Just skulls out completely.
Okay, but think about this from your own perspective for a second. Isn't a lonely, brooding phase just a necessary part of growing up?
I mean, yeah, to an extent.
Because he's 30 now. Life gets complicated, and sometimes you lose people. I mean, imagine going to your own high school reunion, but not a single person in the room remembers who you are.
That sounds awful.
It's a literal nightmare. But it forces you to figure out who you are when nobody is watching, when you have nothing to prove to anyone but yourself. So isn't the movie just leaning into the harsh reality of adulthood, or do you think it genuinely leans too hard into the misery just for the sake of being dark?
What's fascinating here is how the film tries to balance that exact question. Because you're absolutely right that it forces a new kind of independence. Peter's shift into this gritty, crime-fighting loner. Frankly, it's almost a taxi driver version of Spider-Man.
Taxi driver Spidey, yeah, that fits.
Right. And it actually allows Tom Holland to be a much more confident, stylish actor on screen. He commands the space entirely differently now.
He really does.
He walks heavier, he punches harder, he's not this wide-eyed MIT wannabe anymore, he's a veteran of the streets.
Yeah, there's a real palpable weight to his physicality now.
Exactly. But the narrative traps the character in a depressing psychological loop. He nabs villains with sticky web precision, goes home to his corroded attic, watches his friends on a glowing screen, and just repeats the cycle.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. The maturity in the performance is undeniable, but the script itself stifles actual relationship development. There's just no path forward for him emotionally.
Right, because there's nowhere for the character to emotionally evolve if he's just stuck in a holding pattern of grief. He's basically marinating in his own trauma.
Marinating, exactly.
And I think that actually serves as the perfect pivot point, because we see Peter struggling to mature gracefully, but we also see the movie itself struggling with the concept of maturity. And Destin Daniel Cretton is in the director's chair for this one.
Yes, and Cretton is a very gifted indie filmmaker. He's someone who deeply understands human scale and intimate drama. And he previously took a massive leap into Marvel fantasy with Shang-Chi, which balanced heart and martial arts spectacle quite well.
Oh, Shang-Chi was fantastic.
It was. But here, the film feels like it is trying incredibly hard to be thoughtful, humane, and mature. It desperately wants to be a contemplative drama.
Yeah, you can feel the effort.
And honestly, for a lot of people, that grounded tone is going to feel like a soothing balm compared to No Way Home. Because let's be real, No Way Home was a flamboyantly convoluted exercise in nostalgia marketing.
Oh, tonal chaos. The triplicate Spider-Men swinging around with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
Right. It was a massive cultural event, making nearly $2 billion worldwide. But it was also a movie that gave a lot of viewers a profound headache with its sheer, unadulterated chaos.
It was so noisy, very crowded.
Brand New Day completely avoids that superhero fatigue syndrome of CGI overkill.
Yeah.
It really grounds itself in the dirt and the grime of the city. However, that intense effort to be serious is a double-edged sword. Well, at 145 minutes, the film feels overly episodic and, frankly, arduous. It's a classic cinematic problem. When you, as the audience, can physically feel a movie working hard to be serious and mature, it actually detracts from the goal. It becomes self-serious rather than genuinely emotionally involving.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. Watching this movie is like watching a teenager trying on their dad's suit for a school dance.
Oh, that's good.
Like, yes, the suit looks good, it's tailored decently well, and it's definitely a step up from jeans and a t-shirt. But you can just tell they are trying really hard to look like an adult.
Right, the posture is all wrong.
Exactly. The shoulders are a bit too stiff, they keep adjusting the tie, and it just doesn't quite sit naturally on their frame yet. They want the respect of adulthood without having fully grown into it.
That is a brilliant analogy. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you've just perfectly described the overarching struggle of the modern superhero genre.
It's not just a Spider-Man problem.
Not at all. How do you deliver the high-flying red and blue spandex thrills that audiences demand, the things that sell action figures and lunchboxes, while simultaneously proving to prestige critics that the genre is quote-unquote cinema?
Right, the eternal struggle.
And Cretton is attempting to bridge that massive gap here. The effort is highly visible, which makes the film incredibly watchable on a technical level. I mean, the lighting is moody, the dialogue is hushed, but it stops it from being truly transporting.
Yeah,
You're always aware you're watching a movie trying to be a drama, rather than just getting swept away in the story itself.
So if the overarching tone is this heavy, contemplative drama, how on earth does a movie like this handle the classic pulpy comic book tropes? The wild powers, the sci-fi gadget, the larger-than-life villains? Because at the end of the day, you can't have Spider-Man without the mechanics of being Spider-Man.
Very true.
And this brings us to some of the film's specific and honestly sometimes baffling plot choices that seem to crash right into that serious tone.
The handling of those comic book elements is exactly where the film's desire for maturity clashes violently with its source material. You can practically hear the gears grinding.
Yeah, let's talk about the power loss subplot.
Yes. The script introduces this fascinating biological concept. Peter's losing his abilities because of too much concentrated arachnid DNA.
Right.
His very cells are turning against him. His powers are completely discombobulated, failing him when he needs them most.
Which, I have to say, sounds absolutely amazing on paper. It's a total echo of the traumatic drama in Superman 2nd, where losing the physical identity of the hero forces them to reckon with their human vulnerability.
Right, exactly.
If Peter Parker isn't Spider-Man, who is he? Especially now that he has no friends and no family, It's the ultimate high-stakes internal conflict.
It has the potential to be a defining struggle for a character who is pathologically obsessed with his responsibilities. It asks the ultimate question, is the hero the powers or is the hero the man?
Yes.
But how does the film resolve this profound existential crisis?
Oh, don't even get me started.
Peter simply slaps a silvery inhibitor doohickey onto the back of his neck, and boom, his powers are perfectly back in line. The film introduces this massive, terrifying threat to his identity, and then treats it as an open and shut chapter solved by a shiny gadget.
Okay, I am getting frustrated all over again just thinking about this. Wait, so they introduce a massive existential threat to his powers, the very thing that defines his entire life right now, and he fixes it instantly with a neck gadget.
Instantly.
That's like taking your car to the mechanic with a blown transmission, and you're bracing for this massive, life-altering repair bill, and the mechanic just slaps a piece of duct tape on the engine block and says, you're good to go.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It completely undercuts the drama they just spent 30 minutes trying to build.
It absolutely undercuts it. And I think it reflects a very real, very prevalent fear of alienating the modern blockbuster audience.
What do you mean?
Well, the filmmakers clearly want the prestige of introducing mature, high-stakes themes like the loss of physical capability, aging, and bodily betrayal. But they rush to a safe, easily digestible resolution because they are terrified of lingering in the discomfort for too long.
They think we can't handle it.
Exactly. They don't think the audience has the patience for a prolonged struggle. They want the dramatic points without putting in the actual narrative labor required to earn the emotional payoff. And we see this exact same hesitation, this fear of going all the way with how they handle the primary villain.
Yes. Let's talk about Sadie Sink's character, which, by the way, starts off incredibly creepy.
Oh, it's a fantastic setup.
We have this mysterious, unseen force that can enter minds, jumping from host to host. You have this visceral visual of victims being knocked violently backward by a magnetic field as the villain's telepathic abilities transfer into them.
And Peter's the only one immune to it.
Right, so Spider-Man might be talking to a random civilian on the street who suddenly stops, their eyes change, they say something sinister, and you realize they're channeling the villain.
It's a concept ripped straight out of an 80s B-horror movie, and for the first act, it is highly intriguing. It adds a level of paranoia to the city. Anyone could be the enemy.
It's super tense.
But then, as it often does in these modern scripts, the movie takes a sharp left turn. The narrative decides that this mind-controlling entity isn't actually a true malicious villain. We discover she has an honorable, highly sympathetic motivation for violating people's minds.
Right.
And Sadie Sink plays her with this incredibly heartfelt urgency, but it fundamentally breaks the climax of the film.
Right, because you can't punch a sympathetic motivation in the face.
Exactly.
If the audience suddenly wants to give the villain a hug, your big third-act fistfight just feels like a tragic misunderstanding instead of a triumphant victory. It deflates all the tension.
What is the dramatic point of a sprawling, expensive, villainous showdown if it just turns into a therapeutic love fest? The film treats its villains as an identity group in need of salvation rather than active antagonists that need to be stopped to save innocent lives.
It's a huge trend right now.
It's a trend we are seeing everywhere. And it really makes you wonder about your own preferences when you watch these films. Do you prefer a nuanced, highly sympathetic villain whose motivations make you question the hero's morality? Or do we actually miss the days of the truly hissable cartoon bad guys where the moral lines were clearly drawn and you could just enjoy the good guy winning?
I think when a movie is already this heavy, this emotionally isolating, and this focused on trauma, giving the audience a clear-cut bad guy to root against might have actually been the catharsis we desperately needed.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because if the hero is deeply depressed, his friends are gone, his power loss is easily fixed by a neck gadget, and the villain just needs a hug and a therapy session, well, where is the release valve for the tension?
You're touching on the fundamental structural flaw of the movie there. But despite all these flawed plot lines, the heavy thematic tone, and the pacing issues, we cannot forget that this is still a summer blockbuster.
True. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right, and it has to put people in seats around the globe.
Yeah.
And on that specific front, the film absolutely delivers the goods.
It really does. Destin Daniel Cretton might struggle with the amnesia pacing, but when it comes time for Spidey to actually be Spidey, he stages the action with this clever, leaping grandeur that is just visually stunning.
It's gorgeous.
The choreography is fantastic. The camera moves with him beautifully.
Unquestionably. The kinetic energy is still there. And the studio smartly integrated some heavy hitters to balance out Peter's intense isolation and guarantee that blockbuster spectacle.
Oh, yeah.
For example, there is a massive extended sequence both inside and outside of a glass skyscraper featuring Mark Ruffalo's Hulk.
Yes. And apparently, Hulk is working with the dark side here. But, let's be real, analyzing the plot justification for why Bruce Banner is suddenly smashing up a building as an antagonist feels pointless.
Completely pointless.
The movie barely explains it. He's mostly just there so the audience can have some pure, unadulterated Hulk time, which is an absolute blast to watch, even if it feels totally disconnected from the indie drama tone of the rest of the movie. It's tonal whiplash, but it's fun whiplash.
It is entirely studio-mandated spectacle, but it works on a visceral level. And we also get John Bernthal delivering a highly entertaining, likably disgruntled turn as the Punisher.
He's always so good.
He represents the gritty, action-prole side of the Marvel Universe, and his dynamic with a more mature Spider-Man is really fun to watch.
So if you step back and look at the whole package, you have this beautifully acted movie, incredible skyscraper set pieces, Hulk smashing things through glass, Punisher grunting in alleyways, and Peter Parker swinging through a beautifully lit New York in his classic red and blue spandex.
It's a lit movie.
It is. So the ultimate verdict seems to be that despite being a bit arduous and about half an hour too long, it is destined to make an absolute boatload of money.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
It will dominate the box office. Okay. Because at its core, despite the philosophical stumbles, the primal appeal of Spider-Man remains entirely intact. Audiences want to see him swing, and they want to see him struggle.
So what does this all mean for the future? Can we consider a movie a true success if it makes $1 billion just by ticking the big action boxes and casting the right cameos? Even if the emotional core of the film, that frozen, tragic relationship with MJ, leaves the audience feeling fundamentally unfulfilled?
I think we have to measure success in degrees here and give the filmmakers real credit for their ambition. They actively avoided taking the easy route.
I'm sure they did.
They didn't give us another hollow, connect the multiverse dots adventure just to farm nostalgia. They actually tried to evolve the character. Yes, the result is perhaps a movie that is more visually busy than it is emotionally devastating, and it absolutely trips over its own desire to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
But they proved that you can take this character out of high school, isolate him, strip away the safety nets, challenge his identity, and still deliver an experience that holds the audience's attention for over 2 hours.
It's a stepping stone. It's a beautifully acted, visually clever, yet slightly exhausting attempt to force Peter Parker into adulthood. It gives us great action and a really fascinating, somewhat painful look at Zendaya and Holland's on-screen dynamic, even if it trips over its own ambition along the way.
It's a messy transition, but maybe a necessary one.
Yeah, exactly.
It certainly feels necessary for the longevity of the franchise. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. If our superhero blockbusters truly are the modern myths of our time, the grand stories we use to reflect our own societal anxieties and values back at us, what does it say about our cultural psyche right now? That even our most vibrant, high-flying, optimistic heroes are being rewritten as isolated, burnt-out workaholics who just want to be remembered by the people they love.
Ooh, That is a heavy, heavy question, and it really reframes that final image of the kid from Queens sitting all alone in a corroded attic staring at a screen. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the media you consume, keep looking for the deeper story behind the spectacle, and we will see you next time.